Hi everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here to talk to you about a show that is not Sliders related. I finally decided to talk about another TV show. So, here it is. It's a show on Hulu called PEN15. And yes, it is called PEN15. I know what it looks like. It's a play on word. It's a play on word for pina colada. So, anyway. This show came out around 2 years ago, and I had no idea because I didn't have Hulu at the time. I was just mainly on Amazon because, like, what I like to do is this. I feel as though, like, I don't want to pay a cable bill, so I don't have cable right now. I haven't had cable since 2007 or 2012 probably, because I figured, like, what's the point? Streaming is really big right now. Every TV show that comes out that's current and new is going to be on a streaming site at some point in time. If you wait for the entire season to be over, it's going to probably be on Netflix or Amazon. Newer shows that are more like on Fox, ABC, NBC, those shows are going to show up on Hulu the very next day. Also, you have to keep in mind that every network has their, like, kind of like a baby app where they have their shows on, and their shows are showed for free the next day. Some of them are like locked and you have to like unlock them, but yeah, I mean, like, so what's really the point in paying like an expensive cable bill plus all these streaming sites? I say the smartest thing to do: cut off your cable, get basic stuff so you can watch news and local stuff, and then just get a streaming site, and, like, you know, just take a couple of months out of one streaming site, then cancel that, then a couple of months out of the other streaming site, and just keep on doing like that, so your streaming site bills don't be like an actual cable bill. And that's really the easiest way to do it, in my opinion. So this show came out 2 years ago. I had no idea it even existed. When I got Hulu last year, I'd added it to my list because it just looked interesting, because you see these two girls that look very odd, and it's kind of like, okay, what is this show about? And I read the description. I'm like, okay, that sounds kind of interesting, but, you know, I don't know. So I added it, and I just never watched it. But then I was watching the Hardy Boys on Hulu, and I cannot get through this show. It is so dry and boring. I've been watching this show ever since December of last year, and I've just been like brain dead ever since. So I decided, okay, screw this, I'll take a break from this. I'm halfway through, I'll watch something else. And then the PEN15 kept popping up. So I'm like, okay, I'll check it out. I'm like, what the harm of it, you know? Holy crap, this show is hilarious. I mean, it is funny. It's very brilliantly written. The acting is superb in this. I cannot believe all the like 90s references that this show has, because it's set in the 90s, and it actually kind of feels a little bit like a show in the 90s, a whole lot more than Everything Sucks. I like Everything Sucks. It sucked that it got canceled after one season, but I never really felt like it was really in the 90s, and I had a few flaws with Everything Sucks, but all in that Netflix show was pretty good. The format of PEN15 is very unique and interesting. The format of the show is like this. Both actresses play fictional versions of themselves. However, both actresses are actually 33 years old and were born born a month apart. They play 13-year-old versions of themselves while in middle school. And what's even crazier is that, you know how normally, there's nothing really different, too weird about that, you know, because like a lot of 20-30-year-olds play teenagers anyway in high school. However, the background characters and recurring characters who are also middle school students are actually real middle school students. They're real like 13, 14, and 15-year-old students. That's just insane, and it's one of those things that makes it even funnier when you watch it, because you can clearly see that both actresses don't look 13. I mean, they're very youthful and everything, and they're short, but when you like really look at the nitty-gritty of it, they don't really look like, you know, actual 13-year-old kids. And it's even crazier because it's kind of like, they have such great chemistry with these like teenage actors and actresses, to where they actually act like they're really 13 years old. They don't act like they're adults, because normally when you watch a show like this and you have a 20-year-old playing like a high school person, like say in Riverdale, they always act like adults because that's who they are. But because this is a comedy show, they go all out. They are wacky, silly, crazy. They whine, they cry, they do everything you would think like a 13-year-old girl would do. And it's kind of like when you're watching it, it's kind of like you kind of forget that they're 30-something-year-old women until you actually look at them because of how much such great chemistry they have with the younger cast. And these two actresses who are named Anna and Maya, they are so good at acting. They are so hilarious. Like, I've never seen them before in anything else, but they've been in plenty of stuff. And it's kind of like, I'm really glad I decided to watch this show because these women are hilarious. And it's like, the show is actually like 100% fiction to a certain degree. It's based off situations that happened to them when they were actually younger. Like with Anna, her family's going through a divorce and they separate, and she has to live in 2 different houses. This happened to her in real life, and it was extremely devastating to her, to the point where the actress said it's hard for her to film these scenes and actually watch it because she's having to relive such trauma in her life, and it's really upsetting. The actress who plays Maya, she's Japanese. I don't know in real life if she's half white, half Japanese, but in the show, she's half white and half Japanese. And in the show, her father is never there because he's in the jazz band. This is in real life as well. Now, I think I saw a picture, a really quick glimpse of her father. I didn't pay too much attention to the picture because I was busy doing something else, but he looked like Japanese to me. Maybe he's half, probably, I don't know. But the woman who plays her mother in the show is her real life mother in real life. But it's really cool how they like use their past experiences to create this show, because see, the character of, well, the actresses Anna and Maya, they actually just met when they was in college in their junior year. They never grew up together. If I might have said like in real life they grew up together, my bad, I misspoke on that part. But yes, in real life they never grew up together, but they've been best friends ever since their junior year of college. And in one episode, Anna, her parents are like arguing really bad, and both Maya and Anna can hear that in the other room. So Maya just like grabs her hand and they just like take off running, and they run and they run and they run, and they're literally just like running away into the forest. And they only stop when Maya trips. They start giggling, they start laughing, then they start playing make-believe where they're witches having an exorcism. And okay, I'm not sure if the real life actress or the character was having this feeling, but she was saying like, you know, she was having like suicidal thoughts because this really wrecked her really bad growing up as like a child, having her parents separate and divorce and having her to live in 2 different houses. And it was just like a traumatic experience for her, until even when filming it in real life, like it still brought back like really bad memories, the way she can't even really like want to watch those episodes because it was just like so hard. But you know, she musters through. And of course, like the character of Maya, she's always like there for her, to have her back and support her during these hard times. And you know, a lot of people can relate to that. I can't, even though my parents divorced when I was younger, because it was different. Because like my dad walked out at 4 and they didn't get divorced till like 8. So it's kind of like, you know, when you're like 4 years old, you don't really like know like that much stuff going around, you know. In this show, it like deals with like so much stuff that a normal teenager would go through growing up. It deals with relationship, your first kiss, being rejected, certain clothes you wear, like a thong. I'll get to that in a little bit later. That's kind of weird. Drugs, drinking, meeting like a new person in your life that's say like a friend and they like a bad influence on you, not getting along with your parents, like mouthing off to your parents, going to a party that's supposed to be an all-girl party and then boys show up and then getting caught. Like, these are things that real people go through. I didn't go through that growing up because I was a good little boy. And like, one of the other things they go through is like, you know how like, you know, you're getting older and like you're starting to like grow into this sexual type person, and then in one episode Maya is literally just like constantly touching herself and she cannot stop. Like, she literally cannot stop. And the thing that turns her on the most is that thing we're gonna get into a pen later on, get into that conversation. There's another episode that deals with like drugs. It was the first episode where they found like a cigarette, and they know the girls, the group of girls that have this cigarette. So one night they decided to go to their house and kind of like crash their party and be like, you know, we want to be cool too. So, okay, Anna is the more reserved one, and Maya is the more silly one and more the outgoing one. And so Maya really wants to do whatever it takes to make these girls happy and so they can be cool and be in their little clique. So Maya starts like inhaling, I'm not gonna say what she inhales because I don't want nobody to try this, and in fact I didn't even know people was getting high off this crap. You just can watch it for yourself and find out. But like, yeah, she's like inhaling this thing and she's like so stoned, and then Anna comes out of the bathroom. She's like, oh, you did it without me. Well, I don't feel like doing it now. She's like, what? We were gonna do this together. She's like, yeah, but you already did it for me. And then like there's another episode that deals with Maya getting her period. And so like Anna, she wants to have her period the same time that Maya does, so Maya doesn't tell her. And Maya is just like so like grossed out at the fact she's having her period. She can't stop bleeding. She thinks there's something like wrong with her. She doesn't, and she later finds out it's the part of becoming like a woman, and so she hides it for like the longest time all throughout season 1. But then in season 2 it gets revealed that Maya had her period before Anna, and Anna is like so upset. And that's like one of the really great things about this show is like these two always have each other's back. Even when they get upset and mad at each other, whenever they're going through something stressed out, they always are gonna be there for each other. And there are times when they do kind of like fall apart. Like this one episode towards the end where Anna was spending the night at Maya's place, and her dad was there in this one episode, and everybody was just like loving on Anna and not really paying attention to Maya, and Maya's kind of like, oh, y'all like her better than you like me. And so she got like really upset and just like pushed away and told her, I want you to go home. I don't want you to spend the night here. She's all like, well, you know, I really can't go home because my parents are arguing. She's like, I don't care. And so then by the end of the episode they made up. They always make up even if they fight. Now, one thing I wanted to address, this is one thing that kind of had me worried about this show, is that when I realized that these actresses was in their 30s and that the kids in the high school was actually 13-year-olds, I was worried the moment their characters start to date, and their characters do start to date in this show. So, you know, like they're holding hands with boys, and, you know, but then I was worried, like, oh, like, please do not have them kiss like none of these like young people, because I don't want to see that at all. And there's been like movies like Interview with the Vampire where that has happened when Brad Pitt's character kissed Kristen Dunst, and it's just, to me, it's just gross. I don't like the idea of like teen dramas where there's always that one student and they date their teacher. Like I'm sick of seeing that, and it's in every teen drama you can think of. But this isn't a drama, it's a comedy that has a little drama in it. Thankfully, every time it has to come down to them kissing somebody, either something happens that interrupts them so where they can't do it, or one's feeling very awkward and kind of like moves their head around. But there was one episode where they actually kiss, but that wasn't the adults kissing the teens. What it was a stand-in. I'm like, oh, thank God. I did not want to see that. And there was another episode where there's a boy named Brent, and he kind of has kind of like a three-way kind of with both the girls. It's not like a real one. It's just he fills them up, and then the way they film it, because it's another stand-in as well, the little boy doing it. So it's kind of like the good thing, because they don't shoot the whole thing like in a widescreen. They do like a close-up of like somebody's back, or a close-up of somebody's like facial expression. That lets you know that, okay, it's a stand-in and everything. The thong episode is probably one of my most favorite episodes in this entire thing. It happens in the first season, and this is actually based somewhat on true events, because the picture you see is the one above is the real middle school picture of them like in a thong, which in the picture below is the one from the show. So that inspired this event for the show. Anyways, so one of these little girls at school has a thong, and they're having kind of like a pageant show type thing, or community service. Actually, it's community service. And so they see the girl has a thong on when she bends over. And then, you know, when they have to change into their outfits, all the girls leave, and Maya and Anna is there, and they steal the girl's thong out her bag. Then they start wearing it individually, and when they do, they feel like so empowered. Like, it's crazy. And it's funny because clothes can kind of do that to you, or like sunglasses, or like a hat, or certain like boots, or like a shirt or something like that, you know. And so when each girl is trying on individually, it's like the weirdest, craziest like thing they're doing. Like, she's in the mirror shaking her butt, and the other one's like walking around shaking her chest, and it's just like crazy. And then they decide, okay, they need to get this thing back. They had too long, and they're like, you know, I'll give it tomorrow. And then the next day when you see them, they're like walking, strutting. They're like, I'll give it tomorrow. They eventually kind of like just throw it in the garbage can, pretend like neither one of them like stole it and stuff like that. But this show really brings me back to like the 90s. You always hear like 90s music. You see all these 90s references, clothes, drinks, phones, old school computers, dial-up, AIM. They was in like an AIM chat room. That's a really good episode. Like, just hearing like that old like door slam when you like sign off, it just brought back like so many memories. It's like insane. I'm surprised they don't have a phone book in this episode. They talk about Blockbuster, but they don't have a phone book. Now let's get to the characters of this show, because there are plenty of characters in this show. Maya is pretty much the main character, in my opinion, of like the entire show. Even though there are two main stars, it focused more on Maya for the most part. Maya is a extremely weird social outcast. She pretty much lives by her own rules and doesn't care too much of what people think until it starts to bother her, and then she does care what people think. She's just so bizarre and weird. She's kind of like a little like alien trapped on this world, just doing her own little thing. Now, Maya is half Japanese and half white. I kind of misspoke a little bit when I said about her father. I wasn't really sure. I looked at the picture, but yeah, her father is white. I just looked at the picture wrong. And her father is a jazz player. Now, Maya loves her dad to death, but he's never there because he's in a jazz band. But those two talk like all the time not on the internet, because Maya had just got the internet a couple episodes later, but they talk like through a fax machine, which I've never used a fax machine, but like I guess like a lot of people used to do that back in like 80s and the 90s. It's kind of died out now, of course, because of the internet. In the first episode, Maya is like obsessed with this one actress. So like she mangles her hair. She cuts it so bad with the scissors that her mom has to like fix it by giving her the bowl. So throughout the entire series, Maya, this is why Maya has this like bowl shaped haircut. She didn't always have it. She had like long hair, but now she has like the bowl. And what's really interesting about that is like she never tries to fix it up. She never tries to put it like in a ponytail, put barrettes in it. Not until towards the end when they go to something very special. Now, of course, like I said before, Anna is her best friend and they do everything together. They're like two peas in a pod. But they do have kind of like the disagreement sometimes because Maya is more outgoing. She she wants to be considered kind of like a cool kid. So it's kind of like she's more willing to like drink alcohol, do drugs, explore her sexuality, go out more with guys. She's boy crazy, like very obsessive boy crazy. In the computer episode where they get the internet and they on AIM chat, and so like pretty much they go all around the school and they get everybody's screen name and then they start chatting with people. But then Maya discovers chat rooms, and it was kind of really refreshing to go back to like the old days of like, chat rooms. I remember I used to do that all the time in college. I remember seeing ASL, like, oh, I remember that. They use all kind of like internet slang, and the internet can get very addicting. Like, I was addicted to that crap when I first got to it in college. Like, I would be done doing all my stuff. I would be like in the computer lab or on my computer in my room till like 1, 2 in the morning, just chatting with people, realizing, oh crap, it's 5 in the morning. I have to get up for class soon. It gets really addicting at times. But like, she starts pretending to be like an older woman online, and then she starts talking to a person who she believes is an older man, and she starts having like this like online kind of like relationship with him, where she's literally just falling like head over heels for this guy she's never met, never seen a picture, nothing. This was before the day people started like putting pictures on the internet and stuff, because it was a little bit harder because digital camera was just starting to be a new thing at that time. And the way to put your picture on the old days, would get like a regular camera, you take your picture and get it developed, and then you scan it on the scanner, and then you upload it to the computer. And so like she just starts like having like this huge conversation with this dude who she literally thinks is an older like 20, 30 something year old man, and she just loves everything about him. And then she asks to meet him at like the bowling ring, and so she goes there and he stands her up. But then it turns out that the person who was pretending to be this older man was like somebody else. Now let's put a pin in that later. Also, Maya is the first one to get like her period other than Anna, and she's completely like mortified. Like, she thinks there's something wrong with her. She doesn't like bleeding all the time. She makes a really cool joke about how like, the period is not a great thing. It just comes once a month and it ruins your life and stuff. But it's part of like becoming a woman, because that's the thing about this show. It's like when you're a teenager, you're in between that former being a child about to become an adult. It's like really confusing times. And so it's like she doesn't want people to like know she having her period and all this other stuff. And it gets later discovered when she overstuffs like a toilet with her pads. And then the one girl's like, who flooded my toilet? And then she has to and then there's like blood dripping on the floor, and so she has to reveal it's her. And then Anna's like really upset because they wanted to share that like experience together. Then there's the episode where Maya starts like clickety clacking herself, let's just put it like that. Something arouses her and she just literally can't stop. And I mean, when she can't stop, she's like a maniac. Like a machine and crap. Now, what gets her turned on? Let's put a pin in that later. Now, Maya cannot sing, but Maya can play like a musical instrument. and she plays like they're not necessarily drums. I forgot what you call them. They look like drums, but they're really huge, and then you in the sticks have like the kind of like this little pudgy ball thing at the end, and it's like bum 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 bum. Those things, whatever that thing's called. So she lies to get her dad to come back into town by saying she having this big solo. The thing is, she doesn't have a solo because she's not very good. So her friend Sam, who she carpools with, he's trying to help her like calm down, relax, and be a better drummer. And so when she gets ready, when she finally gets ready to play, she gets nervous and her hands cramp up to where she's like, I can't play. I have like claws for hands, because her hands have literally clamped up so bad that it looks like her hands look like lobster claws and stuff. But she plays anyway. And because she doesn't have a solo in real life, she just like, you know, interrupts the music thing and just starts playing, and she plays like a maniac. And she just goes all out crazy. But people is all like, you know, they support her and clap anyway. Now let's kind of like unpin something for a little bit. So like early in this show, she starts to have a crush on Sam. Now her and Sam are like carpool buddies, but you know, he has a group of guys that he hangs out with, and he's kind of like a nice guy, a little bit of a jerk, trying to be cool at times, you know. And he develops feelings for her. Now she had feelings for him, but she really didn't act on them, so he moved on to another girl, which really like upset her. Then she finds out something about him. When she was doing the online thing, it turns out that was him. Like, he was the one pretending to be the older man to like her, and he's all like, you know, this is perfect. You like me, I like you. We should just be together. And she's mortified because she wanted it to be really this older man, and so like she just rejects him and runs off. And it's kind of like, well, she could have had him right then and there, but she decided not to. So then there's a guy named Brent, and he's kind of like the cool guy. I don't care about you. Not necessarily a loner because he has friends, but he's kind of like the kind of like I don't care type person who just like walks around in baggy clothes and just thinks he's all cool. Well, at their dance, he fills both her and Anna up. Because he felt up Maya more than Anna, she falls head over heels for him. No, both Anna and Maya, they fall in love really fast, like extremely fast. So like, but after they do that, he's all like, don't tell nobody. He doesn't want nobody to know that he did it to like them, because okay, he considers her to be something known as a ugliest, and I've never heard that term until now. Apparently that means ugliest girl in school. So people start calling her that because of her bowl like haircut. Yeah, because of how weird she is. And so towards the end of that episode, which is the 10th episode, and all the way into season 2, she stalks him. Like, she stalks him. She follows him around, and then when he turns around, she like completely disappears, and then she comes out like the bushes, like staring at him. She cuts off her hair, licks it, and then she puts it in his locker, like, because she's doing like a spell to try to like get him to like fall in love with her. And so like she even joins the wrestling team to like, you know, be with him closer because he's on that team. Pretty much after that, they have a pool party, and he's there, and she's looking for him, and she's trying to figure out if this thing is real between her and him or not, because he tells them, you know, like, don't tell nobody, stuff like that. So then she starts telling everybody in school, which pisses him off. And then the next thing you know, when they're having this discussion, he pretty much rejects her and tells her, like, leave him alone. He doesn't like her. You know, he thinks she's weird. He thinks she's stupid. She thinks he's ugly. Like, all this other stuff. And so he's hurting her feelings. And she's all like, well, I'm sorry you hate me. How can I make it up? So then he turns around with a smirk on his face, so you know exactly what he wants. So he basically just like the user type. Towards the end of the second season, well, not so much the end, first half, because I don't know exactly why the second half hasn't come out yet. Sometimes Hulu does that. It did that with Light with a Feather. And so and it could be COVID, probably, because they do film during COVID, but it also probably has to do with both Anna and Maya being pregnant in real life. And it's funny, they got pregnant around the same time. Now Anna is further along, but you know, Anna, like, Maya is right behind her. So that could be why. So later on in this series, towards the end, she starts dating Gab, which is her friend, and also Sam's friend. Now, they only start dating because they're both in a play and they're both supposed to have their first kiss, and she doesn't want her first kiss to be with just anybody. She wants to be with somebody she loves. And let's put a pin in Gab a little bit later, because something really interesting about him. So pretty much they start dating and they're supposed to have their first kiss, but he doesn't want to kiss her. So then later on he tells her, you know, you're a great girl and everything, but I'm gonna dump you. And so they break up. She's heartbroken, and that pretty much ends on that 7th episode. Anna. Anna is just like Maya. She's extremely awkward. Like, she's like a huge outcast, but she's extremely shy and timid, and she's more reserved, but she's also more mature than Maya. Maya is like a baby, pretty much. When it comes to that drug episode, Anya doesn't want to do it at all. So what she does is she hides in the restroom, which is kind of funny. Like, that's like the place people always go to hide from people when they're upset in the cafeteria and don't have no friends. Like in some TV shows and movies, they go there. When they want to avoid somebody, they go to the restroom. When I wanted to avoid people, I would go to the restroom growing up and stuff, thinking, haha. Like, I remember one time I was like it was summer. You know, in summer, you just want to like hang out with your friends or watch lots of TV, stay up late. And I had to go to like some kind of summer, not necessarily summer camp, but it was kind of like Bible study camp. And I didn't want to go. I wanted to like spend my summer watching TV and stuff. So like I would hide in the bathroom, pretend like, oh, I'm sick now, I won't have to go, and I'll keep the bus waiting. I had to go anyway, and then when I went there, I didn't want to read out loud, so I hid in the bathroom again and stuff. But yeah, she hides in the bathroom, comes out, sees that Maya's doing, like, you know, she's inhaling stuff, and she's upset, talking about, you know, we were supposed to do this together, and she's like, well, you ran in the bathroom, so you know, how could we and stuff. And then, but so, like, yeah, she's very, very, very scared to do stuff. Something else about Maya, not Maya, but Anya, is that Anya always thinks that people are mad at her. So she always says sorry after something. Like, she'll ask somebody to do something, like, she'll be like, I see, like, a scenario like, hey, can I borrow your pencil? I left mine at home. And then she'll like be like, sorry, because like she's like sorry that she's talking to that person, and she constantly says sorry nearly after every sentence, because she always thinks people don't want to be around her, people hate her and stuff. Because like the whole thing that happened between her, Brent, and Maya, he starts lying to people and then saying that she has like a big bush and they're making fun of her and all this other stuff. So it's kind of like she feels like people just doesn't like her. And then what makes matters worse is, like I said, her parents are going through a divorce, and so it's like, you know, it's an extremely hard time for her because she doesn't know how to cope with this. And on the show, you know, she has Maya to help her, but even that's not like enough sometimes, because sometimes her and Maya get into stuff. And so her character pretty much goes through like more like self-pity and sorrow and then like a really deep depression, and she literally just can't cope with the fact that her parents are constantly arguing. And then what makes matters worse is that her parents are still living in the house and they're separated. And so when her parents start hooking up, she thinks they're getting back together, but they start fighting some more. And You know how it is with kids when their parents start divorcing and fighting. They always think it's their fault and stuff. Which, you know, is kind of weird because kids are kind of the reason why a lot of adults fight and argue. Like, say you have two kids in the neighborhood and they start fighting with each other. Well, of course, you know, they tell their parents and then their parents get mad at the kid. And then the two parents start like arguing like, oh, my kid would never do this. And, oh, you taught your kid better and stuff. Or like, say like in a marriage or relationship, like kids, like, you know, they have a lot of money, and you know, kids are very temperamental and they have their own attitudes and stuff, and it causes problems. I know a lot with adults because it's kind of like, oh, we don't have the money to do this, and then they want to do that, and they don't have time to spend together because you know they can't because kids are around. And it's like, I'm not saying kids are like bad or nothing like that, but it's like kids do make life a little bit difficult at times. So I understand why kids always assume they're the reason why parents like separate and break up, because it's kind of like, you know, the parents or the lovers, you know, they get together and then they do all this lovey-dovey stuff, but then a lot of that lovey-dovey stuff ends once the kids around. You can't do that. You can't really go on dates no more and spend time with each other because, you know, the kids have to come first and stuff, you know. And it's kind of like when parents separate and they start dating, kids also play a pivotal role in that, because it's kind of like when you try to date like a single parent, it's like they have to spend all their time with the kid. You know, if they go on a date, they have to bring the kid with them. And it's just like, you know, the kids come first. That's like the big priority right there. And it's just like really tough. So I see why Anna feels like it's probably her that the reason why the parents are breaking up. But it's really just the parents. They just can't stand each other. However, in this series, you know, like I said, Anna doesn't get her period at all in this series, not even the second season. But she gets her first kiss. And she actually gets her very first boyfriend. Now, like I said before, when they kiss, they're not kissing the actual teenagers. It's a complete stand-in. And they do like the bat shot. And they have a person that pretty much looks identical, like from the back of the person, so it looks a little bit better. But you can tell it's like a stand-in because none of these little boys on the show have facial hair, and the person kissing them have like stubs around like the upper lip. So, and they have like more moles on their face as opposed to acne. So that's how you know like it's a stand-in. Thank God for that. But she ends up getting a boyfriend named Brendan. They meet, I think, in music class. Yeah, they meet in music class. He sends her like all these little love notes, but he writes in like really tiny font. And so she can't really read it, but then as he starts liking her more, the font gets bigger. And then he asks her, you know, straight up, hey, you know, you want to be my girlfriend and stuff? And she's like, yeah. But then she tells Anna, no, she tells Maya, we have a boyfriend, instead of, like I said before, instead of I. And let's put a pin slightly in their relationship, but then let's unpin it for this other part. So it's like they had their first kiss at the dance, and then of course, you know, being that age, you don't know how. So he's constantly sticking his tongue all down her throat and slobbering all around her mouth, and she feels it's very awkward. And so it's kind of like she wants to break up with him. So she writes a note so that Maya can give it to him because she don't want to do it herself. However, the note never gets to him because Maya is running all around school, can't find him. But then it turns out when he finds her, he's kind of like, look, I'm dumping you. It's just not going to work out, but we can still be friends. So she's completely heartbroken. Yeah, she wanted to break up with him, but she wanted to be the one to break up with him first. And then he starts dating like some other girl. However, in the second season, she starts developing a crush for this guy who's like in theater. He's not in the actual play. He like does the construction work for it. And they both come from like parents that are breaking up. His is already broken up, and he drinks, and he gets her to drink, and she thinks it's like very revolting, which I don't know because I don't drink, but I'm assuming it is. And then, you know, their love connection gets cut short because of their parents arguing and stuff like that. And unlike Maya, Anna doesn't double click her mouse. So, yeah. Now let's go to the parents. Maya's parents, her mother is actually played by her real life mother in real life, so that's kind of cool. And I like her mom. Her mom's sweet, caring. Um, she's stern and strict. Like every time something's going on with Maya, she wants to know, and then when Maya starts acting out, they get into like an argument. Like the whole Tommy Hilfiger shirt is like really big and baggy. Maya's all like, I can wear it as a dress. And her mom's like, no, just give it to Anya because Anya's taller and a little bit bigger than you. And she's like, no, I want to keep the shirt. So they argue about that over and over. And of course, if Maya is to act out too much, she will put Maya over her knee and spank her, which she does in one episode. But the cool thing about her mom is always there for her when Anya can't be there for her. They always have like special like time talk, and one thing they do when they talk with each other about their problems is, okay, I don't know if this is like a Japanese tradition or not, but they take a bath together, and when they take a bath together, the water is kind of like pink, and it looks like there's like flower petals in the water, and at one time it looked like there was oranges in the water. So I don't know if it's like a traditional thing or not, but it's something they do. And it's like whenever they do it, they always like, Maya's always talking her feelings out to her mom sometimes when she can't do it, because when she does it like clothed and not taking a bath, she does it in a very like whiny, childish kind of way, to the point sometimes she'll like, she just hollering. Sometimes she'll even get on the ground and just start kicking and screaming. Like Maya's the very like immature one. Now her father, like I said, is in a band and he's never there, so they always communicate over the facts. When her dad does show up, it's pretty much, they just like lovey-dovey each other, and her dad is actually white, and her dad's played by the dude who played Al in Home Improvement. He's a really nice guy, very calm, supportive. Even when like that time she had a solo, she wasn't very good, but he was trying to be like supportive nevertheless. He doesn't like it when she uses foul language, especially talking to her mom like that. Anna parents. Now Anna's dad, she loves her dad. Her dad's her favorite. When they divorce, she wants to live with her father. Nothing really is too much revealed about him. He just seems like a very calm guy, nice guy, but him and his wife are constantly getting into arguments. And at the end of the 7th episode, the 2nd season, he tells Anya, we can start like shopping for like an apartment, because I'm gonna be the one moving out and your mom's gonna get the house. Because that's normally how it goes in divorces. Like the mom normally gets like the house and the mom normally gets the kids. And so like he said, and he bought himself like a brand new car, so it's kind of like he's going through that midlife crisis mode where he's buying like a convertible, and it's like a sports car, and he's driving it around, and so she can tell that something's really bothering him, so it causes her to hate her mom more. Anya's mom is a free spirit hippie person. She's all about spirituality. She's all about like, that 70s hippie vibe type stuff, but living in the modern age. Kind of like a hipster type person a little bit. And it's like her mom is constantly arguing with her father. And sometimes it really seems like the arguments start because of the mom. Like, it's not revealed nobody cheated on each other, so I don't know really why they like fight a lot, but they just can't get along. And so that causes her and Anya to have like problems, to the point where Anya, and then when Anya starts to like rebel a little bit against her mom, they start to get into like arguments, and Anya's calling her like names and stuff like that, and her mom is kind of like, she kind of plays kind of like a victim type thing. So that's why I don't know why her and her dad gets into it a lot. Maybe the infidelity, I don't know, but it's kind of like her mom is kind of has that victim like vibe to her and stuff. Now Maya has a brother named Soshi, and he's kind of like, he thinks he's the cool kid. He's always picking on his sister. Him and his friends, they smoke weed in a little abandoned like place in town. when people are being racist towards Maya, and then Anya kind of like, she tries to bring awareness to it, but in a bad way. It makes her look racist. So then her brother's all like, look, and her brother and her brother's friend are kind of like, look, you're gonna have to fight the girl. Like, I know y'all best friends, but you need to punch her in the face because racism is not cool. And so Maya's kind of like, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Like, I'm gonna punch her in the face. Of course, Maya's never fought. Anya's never fought. So Anya's kind of like, okay, whatever, I accept it, you know, like, just do it. And Maya's, she goes in and she can't do it. They just start like crying and hugging each other out, and they start dancing. Like, they kind of do, you know who Anya and Maya remind me of? Suhek. She reminds me of Suhek from the middle. Well, they do actually, because that's how, like, it actually, their whole personality is kind of based on, because Sue is an outcast. Sue is weird. And when Sue had to fight somebody, she started dancing like in the 80s kind of style. And that's who they remind me of so much. Now, Sam. Sam is based off the co-creator of this show. I don't know how much of his own personal experiences are in the show, but like I said before, him, Anya, and Maya never grew up together. They didn't even know each other in middle school. I'm not sure when he met them, but I know, like I said before, the two girls met in college. And so his character, he's a nice guy. He's a little bit of a jerk. You know, when people start making fun of his friends, he joins in until he sees it hurts them, and then he stops. He has a crush on Maya. His crush on Maya has been developing since early on in the first season. He pretends to be an older man online so he can get Maya to like him. And when Maya doesn't make a move, he starts dating somebody else. And, you know, and then when him and her break up, he starts trying to like get with her. And it's kind of like one of them things where it's kind of like you think that's going to happen, but you don't really know because the second season isn't fully out yet. Now let's get into some minor characters before we get into Gabe. Some minor characters. Brent, like I said, he thinks he's cool, like he doesn't care, he uses girls, that kind of thing. Brendan is like Anya's ex. He stares in a really weird, creepy, I'm gonna kill you kind of way, but then he ends up breaking up with her because like that whole kiss just threw him off and threw her off, and he realizes, you know, it's not working out. Plus, there's another reason why it's not working out. And like I said, let's put a pin in that later. There's Jen, the janitor. She only appears in 2 episodes. She is played by the woman who was in the TV show Popular, as for by Bobby Glass. And she has been in just pretty much everything you can think of, always popping in and out of stuff. But she plays the janitor, the wise old janitor. When she finds out the girls have a cigarette, instead of busting them, she tells the girls just to flush it and she'll forget that it ever happened. Of course, the girls don't, and they later smoke it in the last episode. Also, when Maya is having her period, she's nice enough to give Maya a tampon, and she tells Maya, you know, like, you know, it's okay, you know, all women go through this, it's a part of like becoming a woman, and there's nothing wrong with you whatsoever. So she's kind of like, you know, when the parents can't be there for them and the best friends can't be there for them, you know, the janitor lady's always there for them. But she's only in 2 episodes. But she doesn't give her like a tampon maxi pad thing. She gives her that thing that you stick up people with a little string at the end of it. So Maya has no idea what this thing is. And then Maya uses her imagination and it grows like really huge. Heather's the rich stuck-up girl who thinks she's all that. She's the thong girl. When they steal like her thong, they get it from her. And so it's kind of like she invites them to like a sleepover and stuff, but she only did it because her mom forced her to. And she reveals to them she doesn't like them at all, and she doesn't want nothing to do with them. And the only reason why she hangs out with them is because her mom forces her to. So after that revelation is revealed, she pretty much disappears from the show. Mr. Wiesel is played by Tim Russ, Tuvok himself, and he's actually really funny in this, which I'm kind of a little surprised because, you know, he always plays more of those like stern type roles. He's done some comedy in the past, like with Spaceballs. I remember his post Star Trek Voyager role was in iCarly, and I didn't particularly like that because he kind of overplayed it. But it's probably also because it's Nickelodeon. He was constantly laughing and smiling and kind of like overdoing it a little bit. But of course, you know, he played a Vulcan on Star Trek, so he couldn't smile and laugh. So I guess he ate it up on that show. But in this show, he's only in 2 episodes, and he's really funny. And the dude has barely aged at all. Like, he just has gray hair, but he still looks the same for the most part. Now, the theater teacher, I forget his name, but he's played by Maya's real-life fiance and baby daddy. And I've seen him in some other stuff. He's a pretty cool character. Not much is to him. You know, he just teaches the girl Maya how to like act and stuff like that. And then there's Mora. Mora is a girl that got introduced towards the end of the first season. You know how like in school you had like that list of like popular kid, best couple, best friends, and then you vote them in and then they get put like in the yearbook and stuff? Well, they're doing that, and there's a entry for like, you know, best friend couple, and of course it's Maya and Anna because of the way they act. Everybody knows, you know, they're like 2 peas in a pod. Mora wants in on this action, so she kind of like buys her way in because she has like a lot of money. And of course, because the girls are the way they are, they end up thinking, oh my god, we have a new friend, so now we like madly in love with her. And they literally fall in love with her like that, thinking they're all best friends, the 3 of them. And we find out Maya is a pathological liar. Like, the girl lies constantly, 24/7. And then when we see her talking to a girl in the restroom, we see that, you know, she's really only doing this so she can be put on that list. And so they be friends and all this other stuff. And then we start to see more of her personality revealed. She's really rude to her mom. She uses all kind of like bad language, which she teaches to the girls, which causes them to get in trouble with their parents and stuff. And so her parents don't like this girl. Maya, not Maya, but Mora mother kind of just like takes it. It's kind of like Mora rules her, you know. Later on, Mora tries to split Anya and Maya up so she can just, because she don't want it to be a threesome. She wants it to be just like 2 best friends, and she's trying to decide which one. But Mora starts to realize, you know, the girls are like so weird that it's kind of like she wants to be one of their best friends, but not really. But she wants to be Anya's friend a lot more, because she finds out that Maya doesn't really like her that much. But then Anya finds out that the girl is like a liar, like a big time liar, because she says her best friend, who she's been friends with, is now a doctor, a 14-year-old doctor. And the girls believe that for some bizarre reason. So basically, I think this girl's like Doogie Howser or something. But then Anya finds out when she listens to a magazine that it's a cutout picture, and that's the picture of the supposed Doogie Howser girl. So when Mora finds this out, she wants her magazine back, and she's screaming, she's hollering. Her mom comes in, and her mom just grabs Mora, and she's like, she tells Anya, you know, I think you need to go. And Mora is just like hollering and screaming, and her mom's like, it's gonna be okay, honey, it's gonna be okay. Mora has problems. I don't know what that girl did, but the girl is crazy. She's never shown really after that. She's only shown in 1 episode in the 2nd season, and it's just like a cameo. She just sits there at the play. During a sleepover at Mora's place, one of the girls asked Anya, I think, like, is she like really friends or best friends with Mora? I think she said something about like, no, we just met or something like that. But, you know, I love her, my best friend, whatever. And then she asked, are you friends with her? And the girl's like, no. Her mom just made her come to her sleepover and makes her hang out with Mora. It turns out Mora doesn't have any friends whatsoever. She's rich, she's popular, but she has to buy her way into people's friendship and lie, so girl got problems. Becca is Sam's girlfriend. She's also a frenemy to the girls. Every time there's like a rumor, she's always one of the main people to like gossip around the school and tell folks. Now let's get to Gabe. Gabe had a very small role in the first season. Gabe is Sam's best friend, and they're trying to make a comic book together, or they draw the illustrations and stuff like that. Gabe's like a huge nerd. However, he starts to get a little bit more character development towards the end of the first season. Remember that list I told you about? We had to like put down like, you know, favorite couple, stuff like that. Well, there's a part on there that says like school gossip, and Sam's all like, oh, they should put this guy named Ian on there because, and then he's all like, and Gabe's like, why? And he's all like, because Ian's gay, and gay people you know, gossip a lot in there and talk a lot and stuff. So then Gabe starts looking at Ian in a weird kind of way. And then later on in the episode, they're watching, okay, Gabe and Sam are having like, they're on sleepover and they're watching the movie Wild Things. And both boys are getting like, they're turned on and stuff like that. But towards the end of the episode, Gabe is trying to fall asleep. And you see like this picture of Sam over his head, like in the cloud type thing, because he's thinking about him. It turns out Gabe is really gay. And this gets explored a whole lot more in the second season. Now it's time to start unpinning some stuff. Remember when I said Gabe dated Maya, and then like when it came time for him to kiss, he kept like turning his head, or like he'll put his hand on his mouth, stuff like that. And the reason is because, you know, like he's gay. Now, they do date because he's afraid that people might find out. So he starts bearding Maya. Maya has no idea. She's in love. He knows exactly what's going on. So it's kind of like every time she's all like, you know, when we're going to have our first kiss, when we're going to have first kiss, he keeps making excuses as to why he can't kiss her. Like, oh, first he says like he's sick, or he'll do it like on that first date. When that first date happens, he doesn't do it. And he's like, he wants it to be special at the play because they have a kissing scene. And then when it happens, he puts his hand over his mouth. And she is mortified. She thinks like her breath stinks. She thinks she's ugly, all this other stuff. He sits it down and he pretty much just tells her, you know, it's time for them to break up and stuff like that. But then when he does kisses her, he kisses her like on the cheek, or like the chin. No, the chin. And it's actually him kissing her and stuff, but not on the lips, but it's like on the like chin area and stuff. And so it's kind of like he never comes out and says he's that way, but it's strongly implied that he is, and you know, and he just doesn't want nobody to find out. Now, the character of Ian, I have no idea. He sounds gay, but you know, some people just sound gay, but not actually are gay. So those two start to like talk, and they're kind of like starting to connect, but then they get interrupted when people start coming in. Now let's take out a major pin in this show, something I haven't revealed yet, and I wanted to leave it towards the end because it's one of the funniest things, and also, are they not? Remember how I said Maya and Anya are like really close? They're like best friends. They're two peas in a pod. Before I started watching this show, like I said, you know, I added it to my list and I didn't watch it, and I didn't like research or nothing like that. I didn't even like look at the trailer. But then I started looking at the thumbnails in the little list of the episodes, and on the 10th episode it's at the dance episode. And the way Maya and Anya was looking at each other in that thumbnail, I'm just like, oh, okay, they're like lesbians or something like that, right? So when I started watching the show, I started to realize something. I'm just like, are they lesbians or not? Have they not came out to each other or not? Because the way they interact with each other, they're constantly hugging, they're constantly cradling each other, they're like holding each other, when they walk like in the hallways in school, they're constantly like holding hands. They do this whole best friends things forever, where they hold their pinkies together and then they kiss their thumbs, and it's like a loud kissing noise. Every time they talk to each other, they're constantly in each other's like personal space. Like their faces are like that close together to where their lips are getting like closer together, but they never kiss or nothing like that, and they never act out on these feelings. I don't know if like they're closeted or it's just like for laughs and giggles, you know, for the show, like, oh, people think they are, but they're really not. And so like, and it's like in every episode, every time these two are together, when they spend the night with each other, they lay in each other's bed and then they hold each other and they go to sleep, and like they nuzzle their heads around each other. And like that episode where Anya was dating that dude, so like they was put in the groups and they get to choose what groups they want to be in. And so Maya and Anya, like, you know, rubbing and hugging each other and all this other, and this other boy walks up and he tells Anya, hey, why aren't you sitting with your boyfriend? And then Maya, like, she gives like an awkward look. She's all like, because like best friends shouldn't separate, that's why. And so I'm just like like, I'm just like, okay, when are these two gonna like, reveal like themselves to each other? And back in that episode where Maya, so in the episode where Maya is like clickety clacking herself all day long, what gets her that way, I forget, is either she's looking at an actress or she's looking at a picture of Anya, and that what causes her to like to do that and stuff. And so there's always, and then, you know, like I said, and then it's like, it always threw me off because I'm like, okay, so in that episode, I think it was the third episode, so Maya's starting to realize that she's different and everything, and she might go this way, but Maya is still like very, very boy crazy. Anya doesn't realize she starts liking girls until towards the end of the second season. But Anya's very boy crazy too. So that's what always threw me off, because they're extremely boy crazy. And so I'm like, okay, maybe they're just bearding like these guys, but no, they're like boy crazy. So they're probably like bi, and they probably don't realize that they're lesbians or not, or that they have attractions to women. And it's kind of like, it's one of those things where it's kind of like you just want to hurry up and reveal it, because it's like one of the biggest mysteries of the show. And the way they do it in just like a hilarious kind of way, which, if it's a big tease, to a viewing standpoint, that's going to be a big letdown. It's kind of like a dream episode. You think all this stuff is happening, but it turns out to just be a dream. However, if they keep teasing it, then the LGBT community might get a little pissed off and everything, because, you know, people get offended by anything and everything nowadays. And I know, like, in past shows that I watched in research, like Modern Family, they had a gay couple on there. And I know, like, a lot of people who were LGBT, they were upset how the actor who plays Cam is so, like, flamboyant. And I'm just like, okay, yeah, he's playing a gay guy in a stereotypical role because he's straight in real life. The guy who plays Cam. Now, Mitchell is gay in real life also. But the guy who played Cam is kind of like, okay, you know, there's lots of different, like, gay people in the world, but there are some people who are very just flamboyant. So it is kind of like a stereotype, but not really, because they actually exist in that kind of way, you know? But then fans got pissed at them because in the first season, they never kissed, like, at all. And, you know, they're not the only couple. There's 3 couples on that show. Well, now there's 4 because of Haley and her boyfriend, now husband. But in the time, there was only 3 married couples on that show. Oh, 3 couples on that show because the gay couple wasn't married yet. But, and, you know, yeah, in the first season, they never ever kissed. However, neither did Jay and Gloria. Jay and Gloria has only kissed 1 time in the entire 11 years that show has been on. Now, the other 2 couple on that show, Claire and Phil, they kissed a lot in the earlier season, but then they stopped towards the end. So then in the second season, because the LGBT community was like furious about that, in the second season, Kim and Mitchell kissed a whole lot more, nearly in every episode. But then after the second season, they went back to not kissing each other, and then they only kissed each other again when they got married. And then I remember with this other show called Riverdale, they teased it early in the beginning in the trailer that Veronica and what's the other girl name? The blonde girl, Betty, might be like, you know, lesbians or something like that, or bi or something like that, because they kissed in the trailer. And we see why they kissed in the actual episode is because Cheryl made them kiss. And then those two characters about as straight can be. And so the LGBT community was like very, 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 very pissed off about that. However, Kevin is on the show, and Kevin is openly gay. So I understand why they felt burnt because of the whole Betty and Veronica thing. But, you know, they had Kevin. But I guess nobody really cared about Kevin that much. So to make up for it, they made Cheryl like a lesbian character, which was always kind of weird to me because I always assumed she liked dudes. Like I stopped watching the show after the first half of the second season. I just couldn't take it no more. The first season was pretty solid. Like, you know, it's not like great, but it's pretty good. Like, you know, it's like solid. The second season with the whole Black Hood thing, that's when things started getting bad. But I remember Cheryl liking dudes, and I remember her liking Archie, but maybe my memory is like bad because I haven't saw that first season in like forever. So yeah, it's like with that show, they keep teasing a lot about these two characters. Now they probably do, since they really, because they always say they love each other and stuff, so they probably do. They just haven't fully realized it yet because it's still like a new thing to them. And I'm very curious to see how they're gonna go forward with the whole Gabe thing, because he does have a crush on Sam, and he now has a crush on Ian. Because in the 90s, because this is set in the late 90s. Yeah, I'm really curious to see how they're gonna like explore the 2000s yet, because like in the late 90s, if homosexuality 100% LGBT stuff, and so was like their other friends, it was still kind of like up in the air. It wasn't really accepted. Won't be very realistic, but it was starting to. Because it was still like a hot button issue at that time. Because that's one thing I noticed, like when it came to the Maya and the Anna character, is that nobody ever accused them of being lesbians. Not like one person on the show. In fact, you don't even hear a gay term until towards the end of that season, or maybe it was the second season when Mara showed up. I can't remember, because Gabe uses a homophobic slur when he's trying to like deflect, you know, people from thinking like he might be that way and stuff. And so like I am kind of curious to see how they're gonna handle that, because, you know, kids at that time were pretty cruel. I mean, they were always using like gay terms and stuff, but in a mean kind of way. So that's kind of curious to see how they're gonna like handle that. I do wonder if it's gonna be kind of like the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina type thing. Because with that show, you don't know what time era they're in. They're supposed to be like in the 60s, but you see things like cell phones and laptops, and they make references to like 80s bands and stuff. And the reason why they do that stupid crap is because of Riverdale, and both those shows are somewhat connected because the people who create Riverdale also created the Sabrina show. And with this character in the first season was named Susie, she wants to be a boy. So she starts calling herself like a boy because she feels she's a boy. She never has the surgery, but she just feels she's a boy. So it's kind of like the whole Elliot Page type thing. So she goes by Theo, or I should say he goes by Theo in the second season. And when that happens, everybody's like totally okay with that. Nobody questions it or nothing like that, except for the one bully dude in school, but then he later stopped because they scared the crap out of him magic wise and stuff. And so it's kind of like, well, if this show is really set in the 60s or whatever decade it is, I was surprised that everybody was like okay with it and stuff. So yeah. So that's my rundown of season 1 and half of season 2 of PEN15. I really hope you watch this show. Like it's really funny. It's satire done in a great way. It's a sitcom done in a great way. Like it's just really smart how they write stuff. It is really an interesting format that is these two 30-year-old women playing 13-year-olds, and the person who plays Sam, that's a real teenager, is not the guy who helped create the show. 'Cause he has a beard, so he ain't shaving that off, and he looks much taller and older. So, and so it's kind of like it's just weird how like the main cast is also a bunch of 13-year-olds. I mean, they've done that in movies like Bring It On, where the main cast of teenagers are played by 20-year-olds, but the background people are all real teenagers, but they're far back that you can't really see them. But this is a show that actually, you know, makes the main and recurring characters into actual real teens, and it's just like insane and weird at the same time. But this show is just like so funny because there's, you know, there are other shows I love like Modern Family, Friends, Parks and Rec, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and it's like I laugh. I don't laugh every episode, and with PEN15, I laugh every single episode. So yeah, that's the rundown. Talk to you later. Bye. And it's just like this show is so great. I hope y'all check it out. That was the rundown. Like I'm surprised that Awesomeness TV created such a great show. Which they created some pretty good shows in the past that I like. I love Light as a Feather. I really love Freakish. Um, I love Guidance. I do not love Tag. That was a terrible show. It was written bad. I get the premise. The premise was great, but it just wasn't executed very well. And what a lot of Awesomeness TV shows is that they cast a lot of web personality people, TikTok, Vine, YouTube, stuff like that, and their acting is always never that great. Or they'll cast like people who are just starting out in the acting business. But with PEN15, you know, they're the main adult cast, you know, they're well known, even though I don't even recognize none of these people, but they're well known. When I looked up their resumes, the younger cast, they're just starting out. But yeah, there's like no web personalities on there, so that's great. They're like getting real like professional people and stuff.